But yeah, so when we were doing quiz last week, I realized that for BLG1502, we didn't do the introduction to biology. So I just thought today we'll do introduction to biology for BLG1502 and also cover a lot of a branch which is just a summary of the chapters that we're gonna do. And then if we finish in time, then we'll delve into the quiz that we were supposed to start with today. But from next week, rather, the next 2 weeks, we will be dealing with quiz and past question papers that we're gonna be dealing with, which emanated also from the previous question that were raised when we were doing quiz last week. I'll also do also a slide onto how to approach the answers. How do you answer certain questions and how do you give questions if, let's say, an examiner said, describe, what is the difference between describing and defining? And if he said list, are you supposed to list and also give a brief of description of whatever that you're listing? And there are some questions which you actually have to be thorough when you are tackling them. You actually have to be thorough. You need to actually have to be very, very thorough and look, because you might actually miss some answers. Not because you don't know, but because you just missed a slight, they call it a misunderstanding, where you miss each other with your examiner. And sometimes you don't know who's going to be marking your script, whoever was going to be marked, even if it's online or whatever. They may be rushing for a deadline or whatever, and all those things. And so if you kind of like you are in between, your answer is ambiguous in a sense that you give something which is correct, but not in a correct format or not incomplete, and then you give yourself and you are in the mercy of a chance of saying, okay, I'll do this, I'll just give the student a benefit of the doubt. But we do not want that. We want you to have maximum marks and have all the marks, accumulate all the marks as you can. And based on the previous, Mr. May will attest to this, based on the previous models, the people who attended these tutorials, they tend to do well, and I'm not expecting any different results with you groups. But before we have to do that, we have to have the contents of all the information. What is biology? Definition, in terms of definition, which is the study of living organisms. Those who did BLG 1501, they might be saying, they are going all over this again. Trust me, it's not the same. And I should make a disclaimer again. I think here on this one, we'll also tackle, there was a question a lot also last week about the plagiarism and referencing. We're going to do that also today. We're going to check in terms of referencing, or what is the difference between bibliography and citation? How do you reference, and what is the amount in which an examiner could say you have plagiarized, this is not your work? But mostly in terms of plagiarism, it's emanated from whenever you're writing an essay kind of questions, where you will be requested to explain in a broader sense. What do I mean by in a broader sense? Where you're gonna have to give a paragraph or two, and I hardly haven't seen any past question paper which explain things like that to you guys. But I'm sure when you are furthering your studies, you come across that, where your examiner or your lecturer will say, go and do a mini research, go and research or inquire about certain species, inquire not necessarily a certain species, mini experiment about the car accidents in our country. Like, let's say they're just saying, just compare what does the weather conditions in South Africa have impact on accidents in the country. And then probably there's somebody who has done that. In my meeting right now, which we just have, we were talking about how there is nothing that you can do which is new. You need to follow the pipeline of what somebody else has done. So when you're doing your analysis, or when you're doing, you want to have a certain output, or you want to arrive at a certain point of results, there's somebody who has done something which is really similar to what you're trying to do. They might not have used the same species as you are. They might be working with cattle, they might be working with goats, they might be working with chickens, they might be working with leopard mammals or all those kind of individuals. But somehow, whatever that you are trying to do, if you are trying to check the correlation, if you're trying to check the genetic diversity when we're talking about the phylogeography, if you want to calculate the rate of homozygosity or heterozygosity, if you want to check the ancestral of the phylogeny of the phylogenetic tree, there's always somebody who has done something like that. What may differ, it might be the fact that we are working on different species, but you are working on a particular species and the collection of data. So let's go back to the example that I made. If say your lecturer said, go and check if the weather condition play a role in accidents. So the hypothesis will be when it's raining, when there's rainy conditions, there are likely less to be more accidents, or more accidents are a result of weather conditions. And then there is a study by somebody who went and say, actually, on a contrary to the hypothesis, that indicates that when there's more accident, when the weather the weather conditions are more wet, when there's rainy, windy, and so forth, it's people are more careful. This is somebody else who did this study. Actually, people are more careful. People are discouraged. Most of the people are discouraged to drive when it's raining. People will knock off later until the rain or storms calm down a bit. And said, actually, my findings for my study, it found that the things that causes more accident is people driving under the influence of alcohol. To say out of 100 accidents that happen in between March and July, 90 of those, the passenger or the drivers were under the influence of alcohol. And you say that results will say, contrary to my hypothesis, it is actually driving under the influence of alcohol that causes more accident compared to weather condition. There could be a weather condition which and not have an accident, but people could drink and drive and have more accidents. And then when you come and report here on your assignment, you just go and copy all that from that article, which you're not going to do. And you report it as it is. You report and say, you know what? Say, like Mr. Lecturer from UNISA, I know you said we should actually check if how impact do weather condition cause an accident. But do you know actually that more people die on car accident because of driving under the influence of alcohol than driving in weather condition? You are right, but you are reporting an information which is not from you. So you can report, if you don't want to be charged for plagiarism, you can report and say the rate at which an accident are caused due to weather conditions, it's significantly low, or ironically enough, it's not that high compared to what we could have expected on our hypothesis. But further enough, a study by so-and-so indicated that actually more accidents are caused on the road because of drinking under the influence or driving under the influence of alcohol than that. In that way, you have what? You have cited that you are talking about an information which is secondary, an information which might be new to somebody, but you are also acknowledging that it is not directly, you are not the right source of that. So those are the kind of inputs or how you can dwell on the referencing and plagiarism. I hope I'm making sense. Am I? I'm looking at the screen now. Just put your thumb up if I'm making sense, or at least the question about plagiarism is making sense. Okay, thank you. Yeah, so the science of life and living organism is called biology, where biology is divided into several specific fields. Please don't sleep. I know I'm gonna be reading a lot. I know. I keep doing this. I always say I'm not gonna read a lot. I'll just bring the quiz, but yeah, it's going to be worth it. But please don't sleep. Yeah, and biology is divided into several specific fields that cover their morphology, physiology, anatomy, behavior, and origin and distribution. An organism. So pay attention. I hope, Shumai, I did share the contents of what we did. When you come across this, please highlight this. An organism is a living entity which contains one cell. So, for example, bacteria, an organism, is a living entity containing several cells, such as animals, plants, and fungi. Then what is life in general? So life is a form from various chemical combination like carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, sulfur, and all these phosphorus. And these nucleic acid, proteins, and carbohydrates and lipids that are fundamental components of living matter. The characteristics of life will therefore include a living organism which is responsive. There's a slide which included this on BLG1501, which is a nerve impulses grow and change their body size, shape, cell. They have ability to reproduce and increase their population, which is reproduction, metabolism, excretion, and absorption. And we talk about natural selection, where we talk about traits which are being passed off to offspring. There is a question like this. This is just a branches of studies where they might actually ask a one or two, but I know there's gonna be a one where they will request. I think there was a one where they ask about biochemistry. So these are just a bunch of branches of biology, where there's botany, is the study of plants and their features, zoology, animals and their feature, microbiology, taxonomy. We talk about taxonomy. Is a feature also in one of the units that we are studying, which is the science of identification, nomenclature, and classification of organisms. Morphology is the study of external form, size, shape, color, structure, and relative position to several living organisms. Anatomy is the study of internal structure. Histology is the study of tissue organization and structure. Cytology is the study of form and structure of cells containing the behavior of nucleus and organelle. Cell biology is the study of morphological, organizational, biochemical, biophysiological, genetic development, and pathological and evolutionary features of cell and its component, which is what we mostly focus on. And molecular biology is the study of the nature of physiochemical organization, synthesis, working, and interaction of biomolecules. And physiology is the study of different types of body function and procedures. So when it comes to physiology, there's an extension where you also go, I hope it's going to be below there, where you also study about the ecophysiology, the eco. So the eco will just be the extension, where there's a model also where you can focus on plant ecophysiology, where you're focusing on the study of different types of function, of plant function and procedures, where we talk about how some plants are adapted to different conditions. How do they absorb water? How do they withstand different conditions and all that, in terms of physiology in general, when you are digging deep now in terms of individual plants and all of that, where you study also the plant structure. It also for the extension include animal ecophysiology, which also focuses on your homeostasis, thermal temperature, bodies, all those kind of things, where you are checking about how the temperature animal maintain their body temperature against the different weather condition or different in environment. And then there is embryology, which is the study of growth, which is the study of growth, division, and distinction of the zygote into embryo. And there's ecology, which is a broad concept also, which is the study of living organism relative to organism and their environment. So if you remember that diagram, those who did BLG1501, where it's biosphere, community and ecosystem, all the way to community, population, and species level, and organism level, and organ level. So those are part of ecology. Then there is genetics, which is the study of inheritance and of characteristics and heredity and variations. Yeah, most of us are gonna need geneticists in one way or the other in future. Then there is evolution. Evolution is also a broader concept on its own. Mostly you will do this, they can be like a module on its own, maybe on third year or honors, which is just focusing on evolution. And evolutionary, you can also focus on molecular evolution, where you check adaptation, there are different components such as bioinformatics, many components such as mutation, adaptation, genetic drift, all those identification and homozygosity, in which you are checking the study of origin of life as well as new types of organisms from the previous ones by the modification involving genetic changes and adaptation. Paleontology, it deals with the study of fossils and remains and impression of past organisms. So if most of you, I don't think you did, but there was this series called Friends. It's a comedy series. I'm gonna open the yeah, I can see you guys here. So there was a character called Ross Geller. If you did watch that series, he impersonated a scientist who was a paleontology. So he will always have to explain to his friends about evolution, rule of thumb, and all that, and that the fact that we come from chimpanzee and all of that, and all these friends who are like from economy, who did some career were acting, chef, they will use to yawn and say, we don't know what you're talking about. So I'm sure those who are, but I don't expect all of you to have watched Friends. The final season was in 2004. So long series, but it's still the best comic. Yeah, so he impersonated a paleontology. So he studied about the fossils and remains and impersonation of past organisms, but it's also, they can even bring evidence of the fact that there was life elsewhere. They can trace that there was life and all that. And then there's virology, which is the study of viruses and all their aspect. So the linkage biology with other field of the study is the biology constitutes of the relation with every aspect of sciences. The study of biology experiences in almost all the branches, including chemistry, physics, sociology, and geology, and climatology. What is the climatology? What does the climatology focuses on? That's a fun fact question. I just want to test if you are awake. Anybody?
Climate.
All right. With regards to, can you think of any career which you work?
Climatology, isn't it the study of the climate?
Yeah.
Meteorologists are one of the greatest career examples that we have, because they study the weather patterns and can predict future weather forecast.
Cool stuff. Yeah. You are awake. Yeah. I will pass these ones and I will highlight most of them. When you get these sets of notes, I will highlight the sets of things which are very significant, which you don't have to. I'm going to pass this, but please do go through them. It's important because your examiner, especially in the past question papers, they often extract a question or two, whether they're just going to say it's a one word where they give a person which one is that? The one that they love so much about the biochemistry, something about biochemistry, then you're gonna have to tell us that this person is a microbiologist, a person who studied plants. You're gonna have to tell us, sorry, it's a botanist, it's a person who did botany and all that. And also the cool when they're doing some because sometimes it's not about knowing the answer. It's about knowing which one is not the answer, especially in multiple questions. So when you go through this, you have a broader chance to eliminate wrong answers in the multiple choice questions and other. So kingdom, what is a kingdom? Kingdom is a taxonomic rank that is composed of smaller groups called phyla. We have done this, and division in plants, which is supplementary. Historically, kingdom is the uppermost taxonomic rank and or in the most common taxa, which is classifying. There are 5 kingdom sister, and living things can be classified into 5 major kingdoms, which is kingdom prokaryotic, kingdom protista, kingdom fungi, kingdom plantae, and kingdom animalia. Last week we talked about fungi, which is very important, the ecological importance of fungi. And fungi is a member of group of eukaryotic organisms that comprises of microorganisms such as yeast, mold, as well as more familiar mushroom. And these organisms are classified into kingdom which is separate from other eukaryotic life kingdom of plants and animals. And I'm not going to focus mostly on this one. I'm going to pass. Legs, I'm gonna highlight issues which are significant. Then there's level of biological organization, where the biological level of organization of living organisms are organized from the simplest to the most complex, such as the cell, organelle, cells, tissue, and organ system, organisms, population, communities, and ecosystem biosphere. If anybody, especially those who are attending BLG1501 don't know about this, I'll get mad. And this is just a description of the example of which come from a cell, tissue, organ system, then an organism until there. And also here we got also a requisition of the diagram, which indicates the organism, paramecium, amoeba, and bacteria, and yeast, and all that. And when you go to higher levels, you will be able to view this on a microscope, where you're going to have to check and see the labelings and be able to have to tell that you can label. They could say, view this. There's going to be a specimen which is going to be prepared, and then you're going to have to go out to the microscope and view. And they say label all the organelles that you saw on the diagram that you view on the microscope, and then you're going to have to tell us that you saw the mitochondria, you saw the nucleus, and which position was the nucleus on. And you can see the differences between the slides that you were viewing on the microscope and all that, but you don't have to worry about that now. Then we did about these steps, which is the biological method. This will serve, I'm glad that this will just serve as a recap or revision, or however you want to call it, which is the biological methods, which are techniques or procedures that are used to study living things. They contain experimental and computational method approaches and protocols and tools for biological research. Scientific method has 6 basic steps: recognition of a problem. So this is basically the same thing that you have done. You remember where we use also a diagram. We did an example also of a coffee maker, and we test this. If the coffee maker was not working, then we wanted to find out why is my coffee maker not working. There was a second hypothesis, another hypothesis, where you go into the outlet and you plug your toaster, and your toaster was working. Then you eliminate the idea that maybe there's something wrong with your socket or power outlet, and then it means that your toaster it's broken and all that. But all this, it relies on the fact that you recognize the problem, observe the previous research, hypothesize, have deduce in your hypothesis. And when you make a hypothesis, if they can just find you, there could be a question which says, give a scenario. When you give the scenario, make it, explain it using 6 basic steps of science. That could be a little bit of a harsh question, but I don't expect your examiner to give a question like that, which will be like, give a scenario. you're giving a scenario and also explain it using this for. So you will have to recognize a problem. When you recognize a problem, you observe certain research, but you're gonna jump into identify the problem and hypothesize. When you hypothesize, make sure that your hypothesis is testable. When you say testable, it means that you are giving a hypothesis of something that one can come, you can do. When you do that thing, you will have an outcome. So, like for example, the example that we did on the previous exercises is that if they're saying my hypothesis that my socket is not working, then you will be able to what to plug something else, and you find that something else is working or something else is not working. There was another example of saying if maybe the light bulb where you replace also the light bulb and all that. So when you make those kind of examples, you should be able to think about something that you can be able to test, you can be able to deduce, you can be able to have different outcome, and somebody else can come and repeat the very same thing that you have done, and then you can do the experiment and do. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't see your hand. Sorry.
Is this BLG 1501 or BLG 1502, or have we moved from the proposed time of 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock to?
No, this is BLG 1502. I know it sounds similar like BLG 1501. It's BLG 1502. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I should you I do understand your inquiry. I should have started with this also on the first day. This was meant to be the first day slide, which we should have done on the first day of BLG 1502. But I saw last week when we were doing some quiz that because we do quiz, I usually when I give a brief of a background, then we do the quiz. Then I realized last week that especially on the basic one, there was some outstanding questions that you guys were questioning. So I just want to go to this so that we will have done the brief introduction and have a proper conclusion when we do the past question papers and quizzes in next sessions. When you're gonna be recognizing, so recognition of a biological problem, formulate a question relating to a problem, what if it's the risk factor and all of those. I'm not gonna go through in the observation from a previous research, but you don't need to worry most about that. What you need to get heck of is the hypothesis, which is there was also a question last week about what is the difference between prediction and hypothesis. But for a hypothesis, the supposition or the tentative explanation for a group of phenomena, a set of facts, or a scientific analysis that may be established, verified, or answered by further investigation or further methodological experiments. Yeah. So prediction, you're probably gonna predict on your hypothesis what your hypothesis will be like. You're probably gonna predict the results of the experiment that you're gonna do based on your hypothesis. So your hypothesis will give you, so that there's what you call this on the question that we saw on multiple, it was a definition when there's a biasness. So most of the time you will understand when you are furthering your studies, when you're doing a research, let's say you hypothesize, sorry, what's the example what I can give? You hypothesize or the amount of dishwasher. You checking a dishwasher or ethanol or alcohol or PBS or 70% of alcohol. You said if you wash a certain sample with a certain volume of ethanol, then it will be sterilized more completely. And you said 5 microliter of volume. And in your hypothesis, you said if the samples which are sterilized by 5 microliter volume will be more whiter than the samples which are sterilized by 2 microliter a volume. But there's what we call biasness, research biasness, where you are biased. And then when you see that, okay, the results are not indicating what I have hypothesized, and for one reason or the other, or whatever reason, you don't want to engage further, you increase the volume of the ethanol. It's no longer 5 microliter. You increase it by maybe it's now 3 more. It's now 8 micro. So that's what you call biasness, where the sampling, there's biasness, where you see the sample size, or you cannot just say, if you can just, what do you mean by bias? You can say the UNISA students, you said the students of UNISA, right? The students of UNISA, most of them, they watch The Big Bang Theory. It's a series, it's a comedy series. I think anybody know Big Bang Theory? I think I'm exposing my age now by making examples where people don't even know. Anybody with a show of thumb? It's a scientific series, okay, yeah, at least one no. So if I just go and say, I want to check if all the first year students, no, not the first year, all the students, both second year, first year students of UNISA, they watch The Big Bang Theory. Then I go to Sunnyside campus. In Sunnyside campus, I have, that's called a survey. I interview 150 students from Sunnyside campus. And then out of those 150, 140 said, yeah, we know about the Big Bang Theory, man. We know Sheldon Cooper. We know all those Leonard. Oh, we know about the science. We know about Rajesh Kutrapoli and all that. And then when I go and report, I say the 90%, 140 students out of 150 is close to, if you do your calculation right, is almost close to 90%. I say almost 90% of the students in UNISA, they watch Big Bang Theory. There's biasness on that because there are campuses in Limpopo. There are UNISA campus in Limpopo. There are UNISA campus in Joburg. There are UNISA campus in every other place else. But I did not go and sample there. So that's what we mean by biasness. Is it making sense? So when you don't have a full representation of your sample size. So one person, because you cannot just go to UNISA, one campus, and have the information and assume that it represents the entire population. You need to also have a representation. One of the representation, it includes randomness. Randomness is that, you know what, you're not just gonna go to people who are staying in campuses. People who are staying in campus, they have access to internet, and people who are staying at home, they don't have access to internet, and you find that, okay, the Big Bang Theory is not even playing on TV, it's an all series and all that. So for you to get it, it's supposed to be and all that. So all those randomness parameters, they contribute to biasness. So whenever you come across a question about the biasness, you need to know that your hypothesis and your deduction have to have an element of removing or understanding what bias is in your project. And deduction, I'm not going to talk about that. Experimental biology is the set of approaches in the field of biology concerned with the conduction of experiments to investigate and understand biological problems. So there is this one also here about the observation one, the people and physician in ancient time, almost 2000 before, had some observation on malaria. So what is the example here was, what is the cause of malaria? Example, the patient felt chills and fevers, the diseases. This disease is most common on the people who live in low marshy regions. When some volunteers drank water from marshes, they did not develop malaria. So according to observation, this disease cannot spread from drinking of water of Mashi's water. So that before the new observation, people thought that the mobile water of Mashi's poison the air when people breathe in this air so that they got malaria. But this observation did not help much for the problem that we have causing malaria. Do we have malaria in South Africa? I once got sick of malaria, if I remember correctly. Do we have anybody who has any information about that? Do we have malaria more? What do we have more? That's an honest question. It's not a answering question. What do we have more, cholera or malaria?
None, they're not common.
Not very common. I think I once got, I can't remember if it was cholera or which one do you get more by being exposed to you know, when in rural areas, in villages, when kids are where there is no good tar roads, if it rains a lot, there's erosion and there's the water leave pairs of pools there, even in the villages, and those water are contaminated with a lot of things. Then kids go and play around in those water. And I think one of the things that you get there, you either get cholera or malaria, but I think it's malaria because every time when you go to Kruger, if you've been to Kruger Park, they have a mosquito nest because they know that those mosquitoes have they have malaria. So those nests will be in your window. Normally on your window, you just open and all of that. I'm sure most of you have seen that. But there in Kruger, where every time when you go there, their household, because they are prone to Walidava, Sabi River, what's the other river, which is there? All those rivers which are there. So the window and even the doors have nests so that it could prevent the mosquitoes which could transmit malaria. So I think it's malaria. I'm right. I once got hospitalized by malaria. I think I stayed in a hospital for a week or so. It was one teenage years of my life, which I don't want to go back to. Yeah. Yeah, so the observation here was that so history in after 200 years it proved that many diseases are caused by microorganisms like bacteria. The variant in 18, you see here when they are reporting somebody who was done in the study. So they cannot just report there's something that the after 200 years it was proven that this is caused by microorganism and work on that. They have to acknowledge his study, which was focused by Lavaren, who worked on the earliest observation of the work. And he also observed the blood of malaria patient under microscope and noticed that some microorganism in the blood. So he identified that the malaria disease caused by microorganism, namely this little fella, Plasmodium. There is also another question that you might agree, you guys, you're thinking somebody was saying, this is not related to what we're doing. There's another question that we're going to tackle when we do quizzes in the next session. Well, we're going to be looking at the life cycle of a mosquito, how it causes. Please go and research about that and go look into that in case for some reason, but we're not going to forget. Wow, how does a mosquito transmit malaria into a host and all of that, which can be done. So here they were doing what? They were just checking and identifying the problem. So they are example of the hypothesis and deduction. Hypothesis and deduction here. Please don't be confused. Hypothesis and deduction, you can also say hypothesis and prediction. I know somebody asked about the prediction last week, so you can also do that. After some biologists work on all study and observation of larvae, so they develop a hypothesis. What was that hypothesis? Malaria is being caused by what? By Plasmodium. That's their hypothesis. For testing the hypothesis through experiment, biologists made deduction. If Plasmodium, yes, is the cause of malaria, then all malarial patients should have Plasmodium in their blood. So they're going to test the blood sample. So when I was, okay, let me tell you a funny story. When I was diagnosed with malaria, I went to a clinic. When I went to a clinic, I was feeling nauseous and dizzy and all that, but I didn't want to be admitted. So the doctor who examined me was like a, yeah, young, cute doctors and all those, you know, Yeah, you can see, yeah, this is still imaging. And I managed to say, dude, I don't want to sleep here. Please just tell me what I should go and buy and do. But they took my blood samples and for some reason it was taking forever. Then I left. But I think the senior doctor came when the results were out and he saw it. Dude, where is this patient? This patient should be should be in the bed now when we are treating him. We should be giving the doses and all that. And then they call me in the evening. No, this is the hospital. We have your results here. You're supposed to be here. You are very sick. You need to come back. And then, yeah, you know what happened next. I was dragged to hospital because I didn't want to go. So they're checking if here on the blood, every patient should have the plasmodium in their blood. So the experiment, they examine the blood of 100 malaria patients. So under the microscope, it was labeled as the experiment group. They also examined the blood of heavily 100 healthy persons under the microscope. Anybody who can explain this conundrum? They examine the blood of 100 malaria patients under the microscope. It was labeled as the experimental group. They also examined the blood of 100 healthy persons under the microscope, and it was labeled the control. Anyone who can just explain the logic behind that? Why didn't they just observe or examine the 100 of those who are sick only? Yes, I see her.
So they also examined the blood of 100 healthy persons so that 100 healthy persons can act as a control.
Yes. Yeah. Anybody else?
Good morning. I think they wanted to see that those that do not have malaria don't have the plasmodium microorganism in their blood.
Yeah, okay. I got the gist of what you're saying, but I was struggling to hear you. Hopefully you were audible to some people. Anybody, one last person? Yes, they just have it have to be a control, and they had to eliminate what I talked about before of biasness. You cannot just go to people who are sick. Obviously, if you go to, it's easy if you go only for people who are sick to find the plasmodium in the blood cell. But for some reason, if they find the plasmodium on the blood of a healthy person, that brings another argument now. That brings another parameter which somebody needs to focus on. It might say it doesn't mean that this is wrong. It doesn't mean that their hypothesis is wrong. It just amend the hypothesis to say there are also some patients who can have plasmodium. No, not patients. There are some healthy people. You can have plasmodium in your blood cell and not have malaria. Or you can, there's some case where you can find out of this 100. Okay, we're still going to check the results. Out of this 100, you can find only 50 have plasmodium. What could that explain? I think they want to check if the patients have plasmodium in their blood, because there's the one that is saying malaria is caused by plasmodium. So they are going to check, the experiment is to check if the patient of malaria has plasmodium in their blood. So in their results, because this is the experiment, in their results, what if they found here that out of this 100 patient, only 50 has plasmodium? What could that mean in your understanding? Yes, I do see your hand. Is it an all hand? Anybody want to answer?
Think that,
okay.
I think that if we find that 50 out of that 100 people have also plasmodium, that means the hypothesis is incorrect.
Yeah, technically you can say it's incorrect, but whenever you're gonna be dealing with this experiment, you're gonna have to shy away a bit for jumping into whether they are correct or not correct. You just have to be like, is completely supported or is not supported. So we can amend it. So I think my general assumption here will be, if they examine 100 patients and they find that there are patients who are sick with malaria, maybe the rate of their sickness is still the same, it's in the same level, but some of it might just mean that it is not only Plasmodium that causes malaria. There might be another cause which cause. So their hypothesis will not be necessarily wrong. So the data is still enough to support Plasmodium. If it was only 2 who has Plasmodium, then we will be like, okay, but the data still supports that, yes, the students who have not the students, listen to me, where am I? The patients, you guys don't have malaria. The patients have 50 patients have Plasmodium, but there is another cause, something else causes malaria. So in your conclusion, you can say there is a further need to do a further analysis or further study to check what else causes malaria. That's research. So when you do your project research, it's not about yes or no. It's about whether it is supported or it's not supported. So in the results, well, let's see what did they find in the results. Is that making sense? Is my assumption make sure or not make sure? Okay, it's make sure. I see the thumb there. Yeah. So the results, they observe that all, you see here, they observe that all the malaria patients have Plasmodium in there. So all 100 of them, they had Plasmodium, while healthy ones were free from it. So it was a waterproof. It was fully fledged supported. So none of these 100 had Plasmodium, and all of these ones were positive, friends. 100. Yeah, so problem 2, we're not gonna, how Plasmodium transmitted to humans. Observation malaria is associated with marshes. Drinking water from marshes did not cause malaria. So the water, those water, it didn't give them problem. Don't drink dirty water though. Some important observation were people who slept in open area has more suffered than the indoor one. They are starting to come to that little fella there. And the person who slept near smoky fire usually did not get. People who mostly use mosquito nest has suffered less than the ones in those one. I do have a question. I just want to make sure that I'm aligning my question properly. I do have a question, and I do just want to check if I am, if my question is ready. Okay, I don't have it. We'll ask it on the quiz. I'll look for it in the quiz. Yeah, then they observe that the persons who slept in smoky fire usually did not get malaria. People who mostly use mosquito net has suffered less than those who did. So a hypothesis will be that on the basis of this observation, if mosquito transmits Plasmodium, then Plasmodium should be present in mosquito. That's the observation, and it's straightforward, and is that. So this will be your life cycle of how Plasmodium is transmitted. So malaria life cycle transformation. We're still gonna do this in the session to come, and the second vector and the blood vector and all that, but there is another diagram which explain it explicitly clear. We also did about what is theory, what is law, what is the principle, data organization. I'm not gonna go through all this. We're gonna pull and put. And we also did about biodiversity. We did this about the biosphere, biome, ecosystem, community, population, and individual. Importance of biodiversity, where we talk about classification of organisms, almost 2 million kinds of identified biologists, million into one for classification, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, and genus. We do that. There's going to be a question about prokaryotes and the eukaryotic cell, unicellular or multicellular. We did talk about autotrophs and heterotrophs, and this is mostly just to it will sound like a revision we have come across through one way or the other. And please, when you got these sorts of notes, read on these ones. Prokaryotic organisms that don't have nucleus, for example, bacteria, eukaryotic organisms that have two nucleus, unicellular, those organelles which are made of only one cell, multicellular organism which are made of many cells, autotrophs, living organism which prepare their own food. So these are the kind of example. So sometimes the other explanation that they may give may not necessarily be in the form of this one, but if you know, maybe they are asking you a different question in multiple choice, but you already know what an autotroph is, so you are able to eliminate the wrong answers. I didn't say sometimes the tricky thing about multiple choice questions is not about knowing the right answer. It's about knowing which one is not the right answer. Because, okay, maybe it's just me. The thing that I find, which is mostly problematic, you will find all the answers look like they are correct, but only to be tricked into seeing that they are not. And the heterotrophs are organisms that can prepare their own food, simple like that. And we did talk about classification. So the aim of classification is to determine the resemblance and difference among the organisms, so it will be easy to study, to provide knowledge about the system of evolution or of organism, simple to complex to precise, associate based on mutual feature. The reason why I pull out this article is because this article really simplify. It gives explanation in a way that you don't even need to, they used to call it cramming. You don't even have to memorize or cram it. You just have to get the idea of it, and then you can be able to explain it in your own words. We did also talk about the hierarchy of taxonomy, where we talk about the fact that taxonomic hierarchy is the process of arranging various organisms into successive level of biological classification, either in a decreasing or in an increasing order from kingdom to species, vice versa. And according to the history of biological classification, for example, Aristotle, a Greek philosopher, classified different animals based on habitat and characteristic, and others. Later, a Swedish botanist, Carlos Linnaeus, I always say Carl Linnaeus. Carl Linnaeus is a politician. Anybody who know Carl Linnaeus? Those who are going to be voting, do you know your parliamentarians? There's a guy, I think he's in parliament or something, called Carl Linnaeus. I don't know why he's said. Every time when I study, I saw Carlos Linnaeus. I always say Carl Linnaeus. No, Carlos Linnaeus introduced taxonomic hierarchy categories in the 18th century. So when these names surface somewhere, somehow, either in multiple choice question or somewhere, you just need to know, or it's related to taxonomy. They are the botanists who introduced taxonomic categories, and it's so taxonomy, even in botanists, in plants, is also one of the field which, like, if you want to focus, those who are going to be focusing on botany when they're furthering their studies, there's a lot to do. There's a lot to study on that in the taxonomy. There's even a rumor that says actually in the botanist field, taxonomists are the ones who are paid more, because there's a lot of work you need to, when you do systematics and taxonomy and identify, there's a lot of scrutiny into that. So a taxonomic hierarchy categories following are the important taxonomic hierarchy in which different organisms are classified. They're classified into kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. They are also the same also even in BLG1501 or in plant or in animal. They are like that also in this sequence, in this order: kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, and genus and species. Because I remember one of the session, one student come and ask, so the question was, give the classification list of hierarchy for an animal or for a plant. But the issue now was like there's an underlying, if it's a plant, if we are doing a hierarchical classification of a plant species, is it different to the one for animal species? And one of the things that we're gonna do when we do our exercises is that we're gonna also bring the plant species, and then we're gonna quiz each other if you know what is the scientific name of this. Remember when we do also how you're supposed to write a scientific name, like here for example, lion and a tiger are placed under the genus Panthera, and the species have to be, and how you should write a scientific name, how you should write it in italics and all of that. Well, we're gonna quiz because they may actually give the scientific name and say match it to the same to different organisms. And they'll just all that you have been thinking, I think the examiner is gonna ask, I should just write the correct format of the scientific name. Auntie actually, no, yes, you should do that. You should write the correct format, but also match it with the correct individual. You bring panther, leopard, chicken, and what's the other three species? Sclerochira birea. I don't expect you to know the scientific name of all that, but there are some which are common, which I'm sure somewhere here in our notes we're gonna come across through and say match to the correct one. You're gonna have to match the scientific name to the correct individual, either of plant or animal. So it's not gonna be limited to plants only because this is BLG1502. It's gonna limit it also to Singaria. It's gonna limit it also to also some bacteria organisms and all that. So when you prepare, think about that. So here, example, the plant type. So here the kingdom will be Animalia, plant. The phylum Angiospermatas. We did about that. Chordata class. The Eodicotidae, and this one is Mammalia. The one primate, and this one is, I'm not gonna read these names, and then because I know most of you are laughing at me, and Hominidae for the family, and for the genus, the comparison, and the species also here. And they might actually, another question that they can raise is that they can give you two individuals, and say, compare them, plant and animal, compare them with a hierarchical classes. And if it doesn't want to make life difficult for most of you, I don't expect your examiner to say, give the hierarchy of this individual to individuals, just a picture only to a common name. A common name of a man of us is human. And then we put them, you're gonna have to fill all of this and all of this. But through it, just be able to look for it. So taxonomic hierarchy, there's a common names for animal and plants, for amoeba, mustard, mushroom, and man. So these are these. So for kingdom, protista, for mustard, kingdom, plantae, mushroom, kingdom fungi, and for man is kingdom animalia, and then the phyla is protozoa for amoeba, and the for mustard is Trachyphyta and mycota for mushroom, and chordata and all of that. So the genus of the amoeba will be amoeba, and for mustard will be brassica, and for mushroom will be agaricus, and for us is obvious homo, and the amoeba proteus, and brassica campentris, and agaricus campentris, and as for homo sapiens. So you, one way or the other, if it's more than 5 marks, it's a free mark for any kind of question that can come out of that. Any question up to so far? Do I still have people? Yes, I do still have people. Okay, I see the thumb. The thumb is saying continue. Let me continue. Sorry, I'm reading a lot, guys. I know it's tiring when you just listen to me yawning and yawning. I'm not gonna focus on Kingdom Monera, Kingdom Protista. Yes, Kingdom Protista we're gonna do. Or we find the characteristic of my microlaga, paramecium, dinoflagella, euglena, amoeba, and slime mold. So kingdom Protista contain the protists, or all organisms that do not fit into the other kingdoms of life. Protists that can be heterotrophic or autotrophic, or movable or immovable, single cell or multi-cell. So these are like characteristics of kingdom Protista. But when they ask you to give characteristics, you're gonna have to write something along the line of that also. And also you can add also the eukaryotic, which means they have nucleus, most have mitochondria, they can be parasites, they all prefer aquatic moist on moist environment. Then there's that little fella that we talked about in last week, fungi. Eukaryotic organisms that include microorganisms such as yeast, mold, and mushroom. These organisms are classified under kingdom fungi. The organisms found in kingdom fungi comprise of a cell wall and omnipresent. They are classified as heterotrophs among the living organisms. You know, fungi also are also classified as heterotrophs, and I think above we did mention what heterotrophs are. We did. I'm not gonna ask that. And they are eukaryotic in nature. They are decomposers. They have no chlorophyll. Most are multicellular and some are unicellular. Non-motile cell walls are made of chitin instead of cellulose, like that of plant, like that of. So this will be a different. What is the difference between fungi and plant? You already have differentiation that the cell walls of fungi are made of chitin instead of cellulose and are more related to animals than plant kingdom. Related to animal than plants are to humans. So individuals is a one-word terminology. Give us the one-word terminology. We are talking about individuals that are more related to animals than plants. You're gonna have to tell us that they're referring to fungi. Kingdom Plantae, where there's a lot of diversity, include land plants, mosses. We talked about that, mosses, ferns, conifera, remember last week, flowering plants, and so on. Amazing range, diverse form, with more than 250,000 species. That they are the second in size only to the arthropods, and plants have been around for a very long time. Characteristics of Kingdom Plantae is that they are eukaryotic and multicellular. Their cell have cellulose wall. My majority have transport system. They have photosynthesis, hence their autotrophic reproduction is both asexual and sexual. They show alteration of generation. Then we have kingdom Animalia. So into this, you can just, if you go and just have to make sure that you are aware that you know about the characteristics, you might be fine and you will be fine. Then this kingdom Animalia. This kingdom called Metazoa, all animals are a member of the kingdom Animalia. This kingdom does not comprise of prokaryotes. Kingdom Monera contains bacteria and blue green algae. We still I have to talk about algae, about the importance. So there's a question which is very similar, two questions which I'm willing to bet that you will come across: the ecological importance of fungi and ecological importance of algae. On top of my head, I'm not remembering, or there will be another one which on algae also, there will be like explain the disadvantages and advantages of algae. So, but don't worry about that. We'll still go. We still have time to go through that. And we also did about the binomial nomenclature, which is a system of naming that was introduced by Simpson. This is just what we just did. Carl, not Carl Linnaeus, Carl Land. So this is Lepidoptera. So Lepidoptera. And so is this a moth or is this a butterfly? Ladies, I give you permission to answer on this one because I think ladies like moth. A glass insect. And I think glass insect is the most diverse one. The most diverse phylum is Arthropoda. It has a lot of insects. Don't you even ask yourself, you even use doom on them at your houses. But for some reason, they do come back. These little fellas, they are from phylum Arthropoda. They are the most diverse one. They are more diverse. So this is there's a difference between a moth and a butterfly, but they fall under order of Lepidoptera. They also even fall under the family of Satanidae. That Nampalidae. I'll check it out. But there's a difference between, but you don't have to worry about that kind of question. And then we also did the rules. The name of the genus always begin with capital letter. Species begins name with smaller letter. Scientific name are always italicized. When handwritten, the genus name and species name have to be underlined. So if you are writing on your assignment, to be on a safe side, please make sure that you underline if you've got a question like that. Make sure that you underline, because here they said when handwritten. Some of our handwriting are even the way they are not straight. You will think that they are in italics either way. And yes, a few examples of name. So these are examples that you may expect. Remember, I said they might actually bring and say match here. Homo sapiens goes to which one? Hellanintazat anus sunflower plant is a scientific name of a Panthera tigris is a tiger. Magnifera indica is a mango plant. Canis lupus is a dog. And in some instances, they may not even give you the common name. They just give you the picture and say the picture is A. Match the numbers to that. And not only match, write this in the correct format. This in the correct format. If it's 5, then they say 10 marks. It's obvious, it's a free mark, right? Anyone? That will be a free mark, isn't it? Yes? No? I'm alone here. Not even a thumb. No. You are alone. Okay, just one. All right, thank you. Yeah. So you're gonna have to watch out for that and look out for that. And the importance of binomial nomenclature, we did that. We clarity and machine stability, biodiversity and conservation. We're not gonna focus on the conservation of this. Just an example. We did talk about the biodiversity and the impacts on human being on biodiversity. That we have a huge impact on biodiversity. We are a threat to biodiversity. That's why I was even listening on the news when big industries now. So let's pray. I'm praying for you guys also. Just tomorrow you win lotto, you win 100 million or whatever, man, or billion. And you just, from the rural area of yours, you just like, there's an open area there. I just want to build a mall. You rock up there and say, I just want to build a mall. Or even a good thing. What I was hearing on the news is there's a good cause. And these guys want to build a school. But people were asking, why haven't you done? And they were talking about the rezoning. And then there's, because it's not just saying this bush, we're just clearing the bush. The bush doesn't matter. We're just gonna clear area and build what we are building. Either we are building a factory. Yes, it's gonna bring jobs. We're gonna build a school. It's even worse now. We're gonna build a mall. We can tell people that have to be doing that. But there are certain measures that have to be considered. And one of those measures in the future is gonna be you guys. You're gonna be sitting here. Where you're gonna be an environmentalist. You're gonna have to go and check, do these people have a permit? Can I approve this so that these people can do this? So there's a lot of things which are done, such as what do you call it? EMIA, Environmental Assessment Management, EAM, I think, yeah, Environmental Assessment Management, where before you build whatever that you're building, even I think in areas like here in Joburg is even worse. In some areas, before you put a structure, you need to have an environmentalist to come and assess well, if there's an earthquake, will the structure that you are supporting will be able to stand? If there's there may not be anything wrong there where you are, but if the community on the upper level is disturbed, and then now there's now a stream which will have to push, and it push, now it's going to be pulling towards the direction that you are. It might not be an issue now, but 10 years later, there are places where, I don't know if you can notice, there are places where you didn't have water issue, but now all of a sudden you've been staying in one area in 15 years, but all of a sudden when rain rains, there are a lot of floodings and all of that. It's because of the kind of displacement and the loss of biodiversity which is lost. So the main threats facing biodiversity globally are destruction, degradation, and fragmentation of habitats, reducing individual survival and reproductive rates through exploitation, pollution, and introduction to alien species. We did talk about, I don't think we have asked about this. What is the issue with alien species? What are alien species and what are their disadvantage? I think this is a fair question, guys.
Sorry, sir, what was the question again?
What are alien species and what are the disadvantage do you think they bring to the biodiversity? Or what are the problems which are associated with alien species? In most cases, they are referred to as invasive species.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you, sir. I think I'm not pretty sure, but I think an alien species might be a species which doesn't belong to that certain type of that specific ecosystem. For an example, if we take a bear, we know that the bear is the fish, but whenever they go to any water body or any aquatic environment to get their fish or drink water, they are aliens to that specific aquatic ecosystem. So they are whatever they will be doing, they are disturbing that ecosystem. So that I don't know if if it's correct.
No, it's perfect, but I like the example. What did you use the example of? Is it a fish?
Yeah, the bear eating the fish.
Okay, so the bear is a different kind of fish species.
No, the bear, like it's a land animal. The one which look like, I don't know, maybe in South Africa they call it some call it ibere or something. A bear.
Okay.
BEA.
Just give me a second. I want to Google it.
Sorry, it's a bear. Aren't you referring to a bear?
Is it, what's the spelling? Sorry. Yes. AR. Yeah.
Bear.
You mean like a polar bear, the bear?
The bear, yes.
Okay. Which are like in Durban Harbor, when it says that I'm not into ocean zoology or that, but there are some fish species that are not there in the Durban beach compared to other beaches elsewhere. And those species, fish species, if they come there in the Durban beach, it will be a problem to the ones which are there. But you are 100% correct in your explanation. Anybody else who want to tell us what alien species are and what are the troubles which they are associated with? In your own language, you don't need to give us a textbook. You see that this article that we are dealing with, I like it because they just use simple, kind of like less scientific English, if you want to put it like that. So, but you are right, sir. Thank you so much for that answer. So the alien invasive, they are problematic to the endemic ones because they mostly are associated with adaptations that outcompetes the endemic individuals. So let's say it's a plant species which is mostly in the riparian zone. So the riparian zone will be like the plants that you find near the stream. It's a river or a wetland or whatever near that river where our grannies back in the day. So you know our grannies, they were smart. When they graze the maize, they go and plow near the rivers there. And because they know that at least the water, the soil will have a bit of a water near the river. So those plants which are on the edges of the river, that edge of the river, it's referred to in limnology terminology. I think somewhere there, limnology is the study of water, not necessarily. I think it's the study of fresh water. No, not necessarily fresh water, but it's the study of aquatic water and all those kind of things. So it's referred to as riparian zone or riparian area. So there will be plants which are there. So if an alien or invasive species plant invade that place, after 2 years or after a time, it will outcompete all the endemic species that you usually know that they are there. Mostly you find that they have deep roots, they consume a lot of water. So if that stream is not that supported or is not receiving adequate water to sustain it, before you know it, because they outcompete and they inhibit the air. That's the other thing about the alien invasive, is that when they inhibit an area, they do that at a very fast rate. They do it in a very fast rate, and then after a while, you'll find that they consume a lot of water in that stream. When they consume a lot of water in the stream, is that now the more the alien they are in that area, I'm just making an example, by the way, the less water it is in the stream, the less water there is in the stream, and you'll find that their leaves or their adaptation routes or whatever that they are releasing, if the plant is toxic to certain aquatic microinvertebrates in that stream, which will no longer be found there. And when it's no longer found there, the ecological balance has been disturbed now. We are talking about disturbance. In botany, there is a section called disturbance. You disturb the community, you disturb the area. When you disturb the community, you disturb one plant, you remove that plant was a food to a browser, and when a browser don't have food, it's no longer gonna be displacing there, or it's no longer gonna be browsing there in that area. Therefore, you'll find that that area is now a different whole in a lot of cases. And the habitat loss, effects of habitat destruction are basically loss of species and resources. Every type of habitat destruction results in loss of species. Causes will be instant harm to habitat and kills many species. So here, like in this picture, if this area is, whenever the tractor just come and remove, just know that there are a lot of species, insects, arthropoda, all those kind of things which has been killed, which have been displaced, which have been moved. Fragmentation results in the loss of resources such as food and meat. So there's a fragmentation. This little fella here used to go to mate nearer here. Now the people that they used to mate with, the we know about the deforestation. Deforestation is the permanent removal of trees to make room for something besides forest. This can include clearing of the land for agriculture, grazing, or using timber for fuel, construction, and manufacture. And timber, I think, is one of the cause of deforestation in a big manner, but there's some regulation where you are regulated that if you are cutting down your trees in this area, you're not just allowed to just cut haphazardly. You have to have like a pattern, you have to have like a format, you have to have like a structure that you're gonna do. You have to also have a way in which you're gonna give a biodiversity or a habitat a time to recover or time to rejuvenate in that sense. And worldwide forest cover 31% of area in the world, just over 4 billion hectares. On 1 hectare is 2.47 hectares. The causes, natural causes, will be storms, fire, parasites, and floods. Human activities will be agricultural expansion, cattle breeding, timber extraction, mining, oil extraction, and dam construction, infrastructure development, and also hunting. So overhunting, relentless chase for wild or game animals to kill or catch them for economic or personal gains or for food. Obviously, this causes overpopulation. Is caused by overpopulation. Cosmetic products, overhunting for food. As the population is growing, there is a demand for food security. So there is going to be an overhunting now of certain species or certain different things. And tradition and culture. There are people who hunt certain species, you know, for culture and tradition. There are people like the Sangoma or whatever that you call them. They prefer certain different plant species to do their things. So the more they are there, the more they are being harvested, then the less likely they are to be. Hunting for fun or for or sport. What is the terminology that you use for hunting for fun? It should be one of the thing that you hate a lot as a biodiversity students. It's called trophy hunting, hunting for fun, and other economic values, increase affordability, and rapid industrialization. When there are industries that are there, you see here, due to industrialization and aggressive economic, the economy is growing. People need jobs. The factories will be made to expand and all that, but this impact will lead to gradual and in some cases rapid. This will lead to rapid extinction or loss of green cover. We talked about this. We talk about introduction of species or invasive species causes harm to wildlife in many ways. When new aggressive species is introduced into ecosystem, it may not have any natural predators or control. So sometimes predators, they work when there's a lion and the impala, it works so that there's gonna be a control of the ecosystem. There's gonna be a control there, but you see the keyword here, natural predators, not the introduced one. So the predators, which are for what? Which are for endemic, will not necessarily be the predators of the new species, meaning that the more there is new species which are dominating, the less there is food for the predators of the species. So which means we may not only have a problem of losing one species, we may even lose the predators because there's going to be less resources for it to predate on. Invasive species can change the food web in an ecosystem. That's what I was talking about by destroying or replacing native food sources. We did talk about deforestation and all that and the causes of deforestation. I am gonna pass on that. So this is just an example of the case study of Pakistan and all of that. Then let's quickly go to tissue and cell. What is a cell? Cell is the basic structural and function of unique living organism. And then the tissue is there. I'm not going to focus more on the microscope. You don't need to worry about this microscope and all that, but you don't need to worry about this. John Baptiste, he studied both. So these names, emergence of cell theory, these are just the name of people who are noted in these theories, like your Charles Darwin. The most common one here will be Jean Baptiste de Lamarck, who studied both plant and animal under microscopy. So he observed that all living are made from a cell and all that. So you know about the cell structure and all that. What is a cell? Cell is a basic unit of living organism where all life processes are carried out. Animal cells and plant cells share a common components of nucleus, cytoplasm, mitochondria, and cell membrane. So please make sure that you know where to label all these and you know their functions. What do they do? You know, what are they plant? So plant cell are eukaryotic. Plant cell contains some organelles that are found in an animal cell, for example, cell wall, large vacuole, plastids, and plastids such as chloroplasts help in this is a function of plastids now, which help in storage and harvesting the needed substance of the plant. Plant cell contains the following organelles. These are the organelles that are inside the plant cell. So please look at this closely, because there's going to be a one where they will be saying refer to the ones that are absent. Which ones are present or which one are absent? Which one are common in both plant and animal cell? So for plant, there's nucleus, cell, plastid, centriole, vacuole, Golgi apparatus, ribosome, and mitochondria. And in animal cell, there's cell membrane, nuclear, centriole, and lysosome, cell cytoplasm, and all that. So this is the diagram, which is the representation. You can see here the difference of the plant cell, Golgi apparatus, mitochondria, chloroplast, endoplasmic reticulum, ribosome, nucleus, central, vacuole, mitochondria, ribosome, and all that. So here is just an explanation. Here we are just talking about the cell wall, which you just wait. Okay. Cell wall. What is a cell wall? The outer membrane of the plant. Formation of a cell. How is a cell formed? Plant cell are primarily made up of cellulose, which is the most abundant macromolecule on Earth. Cellulose fibers are long and all that cell. Middle lamella. This is just a structure of indicating what the characteristic of a cell is. The characteristics of it that is found in plants, bacteria, fungi, and cell. And also it can be tough, flexible, and sometimes rigid. And also that it provides cells with both structural support and protection. It also acts as a filtering mechanism. So here is just organelles that are found, like cell wall, formation of a cell, plasma membrane, formation of plasma membrane, how it's formed, and all that, the characteristics, so on and so on. Cytoplasm, formation of cytoplasm, the characteristics, the formation of the structure here, if you can observe it, endoplasmic reticulum, the function. Remember, I told you that you need to make sure that you label all the organelles, and also you know what the function are those. So what you need to worry about mostly is to make sure that you are able to tell the function. And this is just a representation. Again, don't worry about them asking you to draw maybe in the exam, but label it. Just know that you label it, because there's going to be questions which are going to emanate. And mitochondria is also one that is the powerhouse, which is there, which membrane cell organelle, most chemical required by power of the cell, chemical and shape and all of that, which is mitochondrial shape, and that these are characteristic. Then there is a ribosome, that is the structure, they are the characteristic, and then there's plastids, they are the characteristics, and it's also divided into three types: chloroplast, chlorophyll, and thylakoids. You need to know about those, and here is the structure, the characteristics of those three types which are there. And then you need to know about that. We were talking about the last week, we were talking about the leucoplast, which is a plastic located in the roots, cytoskeleton, centriole. These are the plants now. The function of the centriole, the function of the vacuole, lysosome, the structure of the lysosome, the nucleus, the formation of the nucleus, the function, how is it formatted and how is it formed. And then we also do come to what we have commonly known to be your money-making scheme. I told you that every time when I say prokaryote and eukaryote, you should go and make sure that you're getting a rand somewhere. So you will be a millionaire by now. But this is just what we have been preaching back and forth since the beginning of session 1, with the difference between prokaryote and eukaryotes. In this manner, you see, this is the differentiation. They are like a lot. There are like a lot that you can differentiate, and there are like a lot of questions that can be asked from these differences. Not in a form of differentiate, but in a form of, say, maybe they could extract something here and something there. BLG1502, I think that will be it for me for today.